Thanks, thanks a lot. And I'm going to start with a quick brief on what I'm going to speak about in the whole session. I will start with facts and assumptions, what third-party risk management is, but I would be focusing on third-party risk assessments because that's where all my experience has been. I would cover a small case study, finally come to about me, and then open it up for questions. Um, Third party risk is something that's really big right now because a lot of people are focusing on the market of third party. And third party vendors are the way to go forward because you have a lot of expertise that is available there. There's a lot of key talent that you won't necessarily have in house. And just by the numbers, if you can see it on my screen, it is about how large that market of hiring third parties is. So it's only going to increase as we move forward with AI coming in and a lot of uh, key equipment also becoming third party based. There's going to be a lot of involvement there where companies are going to get leaner and getting in more third party talent to help increase productivity. In the past decade, you will also see that software supply chains have become a big target for attackers. And I'm not going to focus on what has recently happened. I'm going to talk about the fact that it is been always there, where you had NotPetya, you had CC Cleaner, and always you'll find that these supply chain attacks represent a fundamentally different type of threat. They will become key, and because you don't really have insight into your supply chain when you're facing the customers that you're providing services to. So just a quick rundown on what a typical supply chain is. I chose coffee, and you will see that at each stage, from the farmer right up to you, you have so many people involved, and not all of these will be in-house where you can focus on them. You will look at outsourcing so much of each component, which brings the coffee from the plant to your cup. Now, the fun fact is in software development and with cloud becoming almost very, very second nature to all the applications that are out there or all the services that are out there, you don't know what the supply chain is as a user. You don't know what the supply chain is as a project manager. And you definitely don't know what the supply chain is when you're even the executive decision maker. And when I'm saying you don't know, it doesn't mean that you don't have absolute absolute clarity. You'll have some clarity, but it won't give you the absolute insight where things can go wrong. And you'll find that there are gaps in your contract. There'll be gaps in the people, processes, and technology. And I found this very, very interesting graphic from McKinsey and Co., where the report talked about the criticality of the business and how outsourcing would be carried out when you would consider energy and material companies as an example. And you would find that back office functions such as payroll and maybe even recruitment for that matter would go and get outsourced and be given to a third party. Now, what could become a potential outsource could be those services that are not critical, that are not probably decision impacting, but could deal with better talent. And you would find that transparency, proprietary data restrictions, and the scope and scale, all of these become interlinked to just how much that risk can increase. So we spoke about what the market is right now for third party risk, uh, a correction for third parties to help increase your organization's productivity and the potential risks that are there all across. So now, to combat that, we have also seen that, I'm referring to a Gartner graphic here, that a lot of organizations are also using various tools, various mechanisms, and various methodologies to combat this. And the most popular one is audits, uh, where where even I got my exposure in GRC. And all these assessments would be based on questionnaires being sent to these third-party vendors, and they would come back with answers, and you would scrutinize, and so on and so forth. But GRC tools are a little less common, and when you see more enterprise level tools, hardly SMBs would be using anything like that. They would rely on one, probably IT admin, to carry out the supply chain risk, which is not really uh, feasible or functional. Moving on to a case study based on my years of experience in information security, and I will talk a little more about that when I'm talking about me. But I found that 55% of the third party organizations were SMB. Now, this were recruitment, this were people who were handling basic documentation, providing you, administrative staff. Even helping with smaller parts of marketing and survey customer surveys to help your research and marketing portfolio. Now, only 10%, which were larger technical service providers or product providers, were in possession of a mature TPRM process, and 30% had no form of TPRM at all. So that means that when we went into these assessments, we found gaps in data disposal procedures, governance procedures, people processes, and technology control, and software development as a life cycle as well. Now, here I wanted to give you an example of how we found a certain organization. I cannot name them, of course, but they had a subsidiary or sister party that was involved in their data disposal procedure. And we were able to find that out only because signatures matched, but the stamp that was under the signature did not. And when we questioned further as to why is this and who is this person, they said it's a sister organization, and things are just fine between us, and all is well. But that's not what their customer knew, whom I was carrying out the assessment for. And it was scary because the certificate was being provided, but the data disposal at the granular level was being carried out only by the IT admin. Wherever that data had then been transferred or been shared, uh, say, for example, the account manager, the delivery manager, who customer, all of these people, whether it was being deleted or not deleted, nobody really knew. And there was no notification process. And there was also, like, when we interviewed the stakeholders, they said that we would do shift delete after the task was complete. But clearly, that's not great. Even in software development, we found a lot of organizations using custom CRM tools to handle their day-to-day operations. But these CRM tools were in legacy software, JavaScript that was X 2008 or 2007, and there was no agreement or process in place which would help identify security issues here and then address them as well. And they were just on the basis of that one IT admin. And like I stated on the left, 55% were SMBs. So you can imagine the potential compliance risk that it created for the customer that was using these services. Now, while we talk about third party risk, we also look at recommendations that can be given and that can be implemented for small to medium businesses, and then as you go up, the topmost, and we found this also a major issue with a lot of organizations that I was assessing, is that they wouldn't inventory their critical assets. Even what their critical assets were not really something they had great insight into. They didn't have an audit charter for internal maintenance and internal addressing of third party risk or even internal risk. Identifying potential threats, vulnerabilities, and impact. This is pretty much the standard methodology, but understanding business impact is far more greater importance than understanding impact for that particular department. And because greater priority departments having greater impact would not always be understood. Governance, we found one organization, and I found it really funny because it was a big learning experience for me, but it was also scary on the side. That somebody had an ISO 27001 certification, but when we looked at their documentation, it looked like it was copy pasted from somewhere. It did not align to what the information security policy was. It did not align to what they were actually doing on ground. And there was no significant monitoring process. It was just a signature by the senior most member of the organization. Very, very, very key mistakes happening there. And the need to review, reassess, and improve is so critical. It is not funny at all, because we found risk registers where and these were notebooks that were maintained where the same risk was written year on year, which meant that there was no real reviewing and reassessing that was happening. Now, in times like this, approaching an expert really helps. But who is that expert? Like, is it somebody you hire? Is it a managed cyber risk services? Is it a large department? It all comes down to funding. But what I found really interesting is that go to like security scorecard, they have some limited options which you can start with to improve your security posture and then move forward. One Trust and shared assessments have a great tool that is freely available called vendor risk management vendor risk maturity model. And it's basically an Excel sheet where you can assess yourself at where you stand, and then how do you chart your way forward. Now, for me, when I talk about third party risk, I like to say that the best way to go forward is identify, evaluate, implement, monitor, and improve. And this is pretty much what a lot of frameworks keep talking about. It just is about which framework you choose. NIST is good. ISO 27001 is very well known. But it comes down to these key 5 points. A little about me. I have started my whole information security journey in software development. And I moved on to networking and telecommunications in the Indian military, and moved on finally into the corporate world into information security assessments. And I really find GRC very interesting. It is difficult, it is constantly learning, and it is just brilliant. And I really love this opportunity where I could speak. And I am also very willing to share my experience with anyone who cares to have a listen. So you can reach out to me whenever you want. Some references, these are very good reads, wherein I use this to supplement what I experienced through work and through my background as well. Some acknowledgements, because these people were key to me getting here to be able to convey all this information to you. And like I said, it's a constant learning process.